back to another episode of the Algorhythm podcast. I am your host, Carl. So Erica told me I shouldn't say my last name, but I'm going to say my last name. My name is Carl Holiday.
Okay, are we not saying last names? We don't.
I don't know.
Stalked.
Yeah, Erica thinks we're going to get stalked or something. I was like, well,
It's hard being a superstar out here,
right.
getting the views, you know.
Right.
Well, then I guess I'll say mine. My name is Kerrigan Arms.
Okay. Before we get into today's episode, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
YouTube solely. I mean, that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Today's episode. Oh, and thanks for, if you haven't checked out the last episode of the Delphi
Check it out.
update, that was a very, very good episode.
And it was fun. That one was
I had
really
a lot of fun doing that one. Very in-depth.
Yeah.
Today we are talking about something I've wanted to talk about, and you had no idea
No.
what it was about,
It's
which
another
is
one of those
insane.
ones I went into totally blind.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. Today we're talking about Stephen Avery,
Yep.
the Netflix special Making a Murderer,
Yep.
and the once Daily Wire special Convicting a Murderer.
Yes.
A tale of two stories. One painting the picture of this guy's innocence,
Right.
and another kind of raising
Yeah.
the as much as it pains you
Right.
to say,
I hate
raising the
it.
curtain on the show that
Right.
Netflix tried to
Right.
perceive.
Which, like, kudos to Netflix, because it's another one of those series that they, like, dragged out. You know, it took
Years.
a while to get to the end of the picture that they were painting, you know?
So, yeah, when Making a Murderer came out, I think it was 2014. Was it 2014 or 2015?
I don't remember.
It was either 2014 or 2015. This show was like, everybody was watching it.
I wasn't.
Right.
I was not.
2014, where was you at, though? School?
I was, like, 15.
Yeah, you weren't watching. You were watching
We taught.
fucking Hannah Montana and shit.
Camp Rock.
Right. Camp Rock, okay. Yeah, this show was insanely huge. And it's about Stephen Avery. So much, like, I can sit here and talk about Stephen Avery for 2 hours, but we're going to try to very much put it all close.
Because if you feel so compelled to go watch anything that has to do with him after this, go do that.
And
but
spoiler alert, if you have not seen Making a Murderer, turn this off right now.
yeah, come back.
Yeah, come
Go
back.
check it out.
Yeah, because this is going to
Come
be
back.
spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely come back to this. And if you have watched Making a Murderer and you haven't watched Convicting a Murderer,
Totally
you're going to be
different.
very upset with this.
Totally different.
Yeah, Convicting a Murderer, I think, is available right now on Apple TV. You can
Yes.
purchase it. And I think they have a few episodes out that you can stream.
Yes. And Amazon. Is it Amazon?
It might be on Amazon, but it's a special. I don't know if Candace Owens produced it, but she was like a big lead on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it just, she was poking holes in all of my theories, and I was like, fuck
You're like,
you.
I just got because you just got done watching Making a Murderer, and you're like, he's innocent, and then when she comes out, you're like, I don't fucking like her. I
Yes.
don't fucking like her.
It's hard.
Yeah. So, like I said, we can spend so much time talking about Stephen Avery.
Yeah.
Stephen Avery was somebody who was wrongfully convicted of a crime in 1982, 84, 85. And what was that crime again? I can't remember. It was
a sexual assault
yes.
that happened on the beach, and there was this whole debacle about him being wrongfully convicted because the Manitowoc County kind of like fed the victim of this rape Stephen Avery. She was like, yeah, that's him, even though there were other, like, people were literally saying it wasn't him.
And the Averys were like troublemakers in this county. So it was like small county, your typical, like, you know that one family.
Right. It gave
county.
me the freaking Murdoch vibes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like the hillbilly version of the Murdochs.
Like, it's not just the one person that's like.
Were you with us when we did the Murdoch episode?
No, but I studied the whole thing. Because I
forgot.
Yeah.
What episode was that?
I was supposed to be studying for Delphi, and I ate the Murdochs up, and then I was like, oh.
Do you want to redo the Murdoch episode at some point? We could.
Yeah.
We definitely could, because there's been new shit with that.
Really?
Well, Yeah, yes and no. But yeah, we can definitely redo that episode.
Yeah. This very much gave me Murdoch vibes because it's not just one person that did weird things. It was like, I feel like everybody at some point I was like, what? Like,
There's a lot of making a murderer. There are so many personalities and characters in this show.
oh my gosh. And I don't
So
want to
many.
make myself sound stupid because I know that I don't know everybody's position and where they fell in terms of like the system and how far they went up in terms of like the police station. So like I don't know all of their titles and I don't want to make myself sound dumb by trying to like name all of them and where they stand, but there's so many people.
Mm-hmm. And we said he was wrongfully convicted of this crime.
Yes.
He actually got convicted and was sentenced to, well, he served 20 years, no, 30 years.
He was sentenced to 30. He only served 18.
He served 18 years. After, was it DNA evidence?
Yes.
DNA evidence found out that he was wrongfully convicted.
Right.
And he was about to, so obviously a year later he files this lawsuit. And he is in the process of a $37 million lawsuit.
It's a lot.
Okay,
it's a lot.
In the middle of this $37 million lawsuit. Million.
Excuse me. Come
on. He gets in trouble again. He is convicted of another murder. Like a murder, not another murder, but a brutal murder.
Like the details are awful.
Yes.
Murder.
And this is, from what I've researched and listened to, this is several weeks out of his supposedly before he gets his settlement money.
Right.
And what Netflix does is they paint this picture of like he's being set up again. And this is what Stephen Avery. I know you don't like me saying that. I know you don't like me saying that because you just got done watching Making a Murder and you still like,
yeah,
he's fucking innocent. Like,
shut the fuck up.
Right. And they paint this picture
yeah.
of that he's like all this.
Yeah.
The evidence,
corruption, just
like,
straight up corruption, all the way through the freaking Manitowoc County over to the Calumet County, which is where his trial was held. Like the whole thing. I was like, these people, they're in cahoots.
I remember watching like the first couple episodes and looking at Eric, and I'm like,
what?
So I'm very guilty of. I do this when I watch movies too, and I hate that I do it. I'll get on Wikipedia.
Oh no!
And research
that kind of person.
The ending of a
Isaac's
movie.
the same way.
I don't want to know if like my favorite character in a movie is gonna die, and if I read that they die, I'm prepared.
You're just like you're ruined.
Yeah, I'm prepared for it. So I researched. I was like, is Stephen Avery still locked up? And he's still locked up at the time. I'm like, what the fuck? It's 10 years later.
Yeah,
like it's 10 years later.
Yeah.
So what's going on? And by the time I was done watching this documentary, I was convinced that he was innocent. I think everybody was.
Everybody was.
Yeah, I think you still might be.
That brought on like a huge there were the truthers or the supporters and then the people who thought he was guilty. I don't remember what they were called. But his like fan base, and I put fan base
seriously.
I mean,
seriously.
They were like,
it's probably a good word for it.
They
like
were in
protesting every day, you know, just blogs online, YouTube videos online, just
all the discussion in every single platform.
The amount of heat that this police department was under was just insane.
Because of his wrongful conviction.
His wrongful conviction, yeah. And Netflix,
they had fire under their ass after he got out.
Yeah. And the thing is like, we can sit here and go into the details of what happened, like with Teresa Halbach and stuff like that, but we don't really have to. Like I said, if you haven't watched Making a Murderer, you should have already turned off this episode and go watch it. But if you have, you already know what happened.
Right.
But my thing is with this is when you watch Making a Murderer, they kind of, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but Teresa Halbach's family, like her brother and stuff, was kind of painted in a bad light.
Oh, yeah.
And that is horrible.
Just very like stone face, no emotion.
Yeah.
We're happy this is happening. Very like monotone throughout the whole thing. And even I thought like, why is there not more uproar from Teresa Halbach's entire like
Yeah, there
her
wasn't
support
much.
system.
There
No.
wasn't much.
And like that was confusing to watch. I didn't understand like that aspect of it, but that's the whole point of making a murderer, you know? Their whole picture that they're painting is it's about Steven.
Yeah.
It's and as awful as it is, all the things that Teresa went through in her last moments, like there was just no light really shed on that.
There wasn't. You didn't really know. You didn't really learn much about her.
No.
Like outside of she was a photographer. Like you didn't. They kind of brushed all of that under the rug. They brushed the actual victim under the rug and
disgusting.
painted the convicted killer as the victim,
which is whack to go
insane.
back.
If the more you think about it, it's fucked.
Yeah,
it is bad.
But then, I mean, I don't know if you want to bring in Brendan Dassey.
Yes, I was getting there.
He just absolutely. When they first brought him in, I was gutted, and I think even when it went to the 7th Circuit Court in Chicago, and even the judges were saying like watching his confession like actually made me sick because he was a 16-year-old. He was a boy, and like they were feeding him, come on, Brendan, just tell us. You know, you can trust us. Just tell us. And even the judge was like, it made
and this
me
is on the
sick.
And let me. This is in the Netflix documentary.
Yes, this is not Convicting a Murder.
What Netflix shows you is these detectives, these interrogators, just pushing him. Come on, Brendan. Tell us what happened. Oh, he did do this. He did do this, right?
And he just looks like a sad little wet puppy sitting on that couch just getting the shit kicked out of him. Mm-hmm. Like, he just looks like he's lifeless. And I was like, this is, like, what's happening? You know, like, that was that moment. And I think for everybody or anybody who watches it or has watched it, like, there's no way you could watch that and not feel some sort of emotion towards that 16-year-old boy.
Yeah, Stephen Avery led his nephew into the room with Teresa Halbach when she was chained up.
Awful.
Which those she was handcuffed and lead, what is that, lead foot or what is that? Like the lead plate or whatever it is. Like she was braced to the bed.
Yeah.
Netflix left that out.
Yeah.
Netflix left that out, and the 2 pieces of evidence, I mean, I'm going off the rails, but 2 pieces of evidence that they found that they bring up in Convicting a Murderer that Brendan admits to.
Fully. I mean, he fully tells so many details of the crime scene and the garage and the fire pit.
And in the Netflix documentary, it is so edited to make it look like he's being pressured and bullied.
Which, like, granted, after watching Convicting a Murderer, and thinking back to all of those scenes that they put in Making a Murder of Brendan, it's the same thing. Like, they only showed, like, little snippets of when he was, like, really feeling something.
But the things that they left out were so important.
Huge.
So important.
Huge.
Minor details.
Yeah. Like, he fully was telling...
They made it seem like he was very incoherent and not remembering of things in the documentary. But when Convicting a Murderer came out, he just... spilling it all.
Yeah, and it was the whole thing. Like, there were some parts where they were like, come on, Brendan, like, we already know what happened, just tell us what happened. But I mean, he was telling things that they would not have known, and he would not have known if he was not there.
Exactly.
Which that just absolutely gutted me too, to find out all of that information.
It's got to be weird for you being able to watch Making a Murder and then go immediately into Convicting a Murder.
Just like jump right into it.
Imagine how we've felt when we watched that 10 years ago and there was nothing after that. We're just like, why is this dude locked up? Why is he still locked up? Because they made it, he was innocent.
Yep.
In this documentary, he was innocent.
Especially with all of Kathleen's, like, her breakdown of, oh, there was no skull fragments on the bullet, and there's no way she could have been any mutilation to her body while she was in the bed because there was no blood in the room. But then in Convicting a Murder, they were like, he moved his whole bed around, he cleaned his carpets, and he blah blah blah. And I was like, where was that information? What do you mean?
Right.
What do you mean?
Pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you stand? We talked about a little bit about this before the episode. Where do you stand now with Stephen Avery? Do you think he's guilty, or do you think he is innocent, or do you think there was some fucky shit that happened?
I think regardless of where you fall, there was fucky shit that happened, especially with the Manitowoc County officers. And the way that interrogations were held and the lack of like support that Brendan had when he was doing all of those things, regardless of, when he confessed. I mean, yeah, he has to be guilty. There's just
Has
no
to
way.
be guilty. We talked about this too, and we both agree with this. Brendan committed the deed, but Brendan, being a 16-year-old kid on the spectrum,
low IQ,
very,
he
very low
doesn't even,
IQ.
like,
All he was
understand.
worried about, literally, all this kid was worried about was watching WrestleMania.
Yeah, and he wanted to, he said, so after I'm done with this, can I go back to school? And they were like, well, what do you want to go back to school for? And he was like, oh, I have a test at like 3:20 or whatever. And they were like, just sit tight. You're probably not going back to school today. And I was like,
yeah,
rip my freaking heart out.
Yeah.
Like, he has no idea what he's doing.
And this is his uncle, Stephen, is a very, very manipulative, lying.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to his own family.
Yeah.
Deceiving, power hungry
And
bully of a person.
Yes, his treatment to women specifically. Like,
and that's an entire different, like I said, we could talk about this guy for forever. Things that he's done.
Right.
Like, just go watch what we're talking about.
It's so good. Regardless.
This guy's insane.
Yes, like how it all unfolds. It's
on the hood of your car as the chick drives by. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. He's living his life. No, I'm just kidding. I do not defend anything.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I'm just thinking, when I heard that, I didn't even want to picture it, but I'm like, what the fuck is this dude doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, the whole family had stuff going on.
This family is
interesting, and it's not just him.
Manitowoc, Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Manitowoc County. Boy.
Interesting.
They're a different breed.
I love the way they talk, though. I was eating their little accent
they're different
up.
Breed.
So, Manitowoc.
Yeah, the Green Bay Packers.
I was having so much fun listening to them. But
so, I have 10 things that Making a Murderer, the Netflix special, left out that we can talk about. Some we've already talked about, some we haven't. But these are 10 key facts. Okay. One little detail that the documentary felt the need to omit was that Halbach had met Stephen Avery on numerous occasions prior to her disappearance. This is Avery and Halbach knew each other.
Yes.
Halbach, a local freelance photographer, had been to Avery's property several times to take photos of his vehicles for Auto Trader magazine. And that's not all. Halbach was apparently quite creeped out by Avery, who at one point answered the door in nothing but a towel.
Right.
It certainly doesn't point to murder, but it's an interesting piece of information nevertheless.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, again, you never would have known that.
Yeah.
If you don't watch Convicting a Murderer.
You would have thought that she was just coming out to take pictures one day.
Yep.
Boom, she goes missing.
And then all of a sudden her car randomly turns up on the lot.
Random citizen calls in the car like she won the lottery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 9, Avery called Halbach 3 times on the day of her disappearance. Further signifying that Avery and Halbach were acquainted, Avery allegedly called Halbach 3 times on the day of her disappearance. Former state prosecutor Ken Kratz.
This was fucking stand that.
Listen, you can't do that.
I cannot.
Just like you can't stand Candace Owens.
Him. Every time he came on my screen, the way that he talks.
It's the way Netflix painted him.
I can't stand him.
It's insane what the influence, how they do this show, can influence how you feel about somebody.
Oh, absolutely. But fuck him.
But if you didn't watch Making a Murderer, let's say you didn't watch Making a Murderer and you just decided to watch Convicting a Murderer, you wouldn't have a problem with Ken Kratz at all.
I don't like the way he talks. So I would definitely still have an issue.
His voice is just like...
Well, like the way that his mouth moves when he talks, I'm like...
Very, very simple.
Fix it.
Fix it. Ken Kratz...
Anyways, I digress.
Ken Kratz has revealed that Avery called Halbach at 2:24 and 2:35 p.m. On both occasions, he blocked his number so that Halbach wouldn't know it was him.
Which that whole thing was interesting too, because when he called that day, it was under his sister's last name, which was, I don't remember what it was.
That's okay.
Anyways.
We get the gist.
And Teresa had called and left a message on his sister's receiver and was like, hey, I can come out to take a picture of your car today. And like, you have to let me know where I'm going because I don't know where I'm going. And Making a Murder completely, like, didn't even show that. And so I thought that was interesting because they were painting the picture like she was just like, you know, Steven had called and she showed up and that was that.
That was it.
There was a whole different storyline.
They knew each other.
Yeah, there was a whole different storyline that day.
And she was creeped out by him.
Yeah.
Like, told her friends, like, I'm creeped out by him.
Yeah, just a couple days before.
Yeah, and her friends gave interviews in Convicting a Murderer, and they talked about the last time they had seen her, and they said, maybe you shouldn't just go over there. And they, like, the regret and guilt that they have of just not stopping her.
Right.
Yeah. He later called at 4:35 without blocking his number, which Kratz believes was placed as an attempted alibi. While their business arrangement doesn't seem too suspicious, this key piece of evidence is certainly a little odd.
Yeah.
Number 8, the cat fire.
Also horrific.
And Netflix left out so much.
Yeah, so much of those details.
So much about this. Viewer discretion, listener discretion before I talk about this. Before we start, yes, this piece of evidence is exactly what it sounds like. While the documentary covers Avery's animal cruelty charge, Ken Kratz states that the events were very different from what Avery in the documentary described. According to Kratz, Avery deliberately soaked a cat in a flammable material and then threw it on a bonfire and watched it burn solely for his own entertainment. Animal cruelty is often an indicator for future human murder, and it's difficult to not draw parallels between the burning of both the cat and Halbach's remains.
Yeah. Which, like, he had doused the cat, threw it in the fire. The
cat got
tried
out.
to crawl out of the fire.
Threw it back in.
He doused it again, threw it back in the fire. Like, that type of behavior is, like, obviously red flags. It's always been red flags.
And then he blamed it on his friends.
Yeah, and he was like, well, it was just the group I was hanging out with, you know? Like,
his mom goes, well, did you do it? And he goes, no, it was so-and-so. He was like, I think it was so-and-so. Like...
Come on.
And I understand the love a mother has for her son.
Right.
But if we want to talk about the most gullible person...
Miss Dolores.
She is the most gullible.
And she just was breaking my heart the whole time I had to watch her because you can just see her, like, deteriorating, getting old, and she's going through medical things, and the whole time she is, like, right there by Steven's side.
Yeah. What was that?
My cup.
But, yeah, I mean, this was a mother who had already went through having her son wrongfully convicted for 18 years.
Yeah.
And then,
which 6 of those 18 years he was in for... What was he in for? Maybe I shouldn't have spoke before I said that. He was in for something.
Was it hitting a woman?
Yes, it was when he drove his cousin off the road and he pointed a gun at her.
And that's another thing that Netflix
they briefly talked about it, but it was not into the detail of what his cousin actually
it was
experienced.
Insane.
Wow, I almost really forgot about that. But that's like kind of a big detail too, because yes, he was wrongfully convicted for 18 years, but 6 of those 18 he was already going to be imprisoned anyways because of the event that happened with his cousin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, number 6, leg irons and handcuffs. This is what we were talking about a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
After the murder, police found a curious pair of leg irons and handcuffs on Avery's property. Avery later admitted to owning these tools and stated that he bought them because he wanted to experiment in the bedroom.
He bought them with his sister. Him and his sister. Both. Weird. That was a weird detail. To just, like, casually throw
This family's different.
They are.
However, these items also became a key piece of evidence when Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, revealed that Avery had bound Halbach to the bed with leg irons and handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
According to Dassey, Avery led him to the shackled Halbach and asked him if he wanted to get some of that. However, it's also important to note that the tools contain no traces of Halbach's DNA.
I mean, not to play devil's advocate, but, like, the whole bedroom scene genuinely did not make sense to me. because if she was, they cut her throat and they did all of these awful things to her, and like not a drop of blood, not a speck of skin, not nothing of her was found in that bed, in that room. And so I was like, I don't understand. Like, where is like the forensic evidence of this specific scene that's being made? And like, even in Convicting a Murder, when they obviously broke it down to him cleaning and moving his furniture around and all of those things, I was like, I don't understand.
It's a lot.
I don't understand.
Like, it's a lot. Like, I mean, to be able to cover all of that up.
How do you do that? And especially, I don't know if they're going to talk about it, but like being in the garage and her being shot in the head. I think she was she shot twice in the head, or was it just once?
I think it's just once.
Entered and left.
Mm-hmm.
There was no like blood splatter anywhere. And like that garage was full of shit. Just like piles of the most random stuff. So
I guess my thing is like, yeah, like where the fuck is the blood at? Like
right.
where's all this stuff at? I mean, is he smart enough to clean all this shit up?
Brendan's not, that's
Brendan's
for sure.
Not, but Steven, yes.
Possibly.
I think he definitely is.
Yeah.
My thing is like, you have all this stuff. Like, all the stuff that Netflix left out, whatever. She had the weird feeling about Stephen Avery. They've had several conversations. Like, who else would have done it?
There's just no way.
It's just like it's almost like it. You can't really do that with murder, but it's like, who else would it be? Like,
yes.
Like she was found there. Like her remains are found there, burnt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her car is there.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
correct.
It's just like.
And when they go through and they paint all of the Manitowoc people who were all corrupt and working together, and they planted this and they cleaned up this and put it here and all of that stuff, how the hell did they do that so convincingly? You know what I'm saying?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And like, why the fuck? Another thing is like, why the fuck do they care?
Yeah.
People are always saying, well, he's about to get money and stuff like that. That has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, like, well, everybody was saying it was because they were trying to save their own ass from him being wrongfully convicted in the 1985
It was done.
But yeah, at the same time, like
that. That's one thing that, like, when I first watched it, I think I talked to Eric about it. I was like, why do they have to do this?
Right.
Like, why are they trying to just get this guy hemmed up again? Like,
right.
Like, what's the point?
Right. And of course, the whole Avery family's like, they're after him.
They're not the brightest crayons in the fucking box. let's be honest.
No.
They're not. Like, I guess motive is huge here on both sides.
Yeah.
Like, what's Stephen Avery's motive? Well, let's look at his history.
Correct.
With women.
Correct.
Like, the thing is like, he met her 3 different times. Well, he had a plan of, well, I'm going to come on to her, and if she doesn't like me that way, I'm just going to take it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think happened.
Right.
Okay. Number 5. Avery was physically abusive to his partners.
Correct.
Okay, at this time, as this and the cat fire indicate, Avery has a history of violence. Back in 1984, Avery was accused by his sister-in-law of assaulting his then wife. After police responded to a domestic violence call, the sister-in-law reported that Avery beat up on his wife, and she left home and went to a domestic violence center. Avery again found himself in trouble in 2004 when he was arrested for abusing his fiancée, Jody Stokowski.
Stokowski.
He was subsequently ordered to stay away from Jody for 72 hours, which there's phone calls between them. Of like, well, you couldn't have told the cops you fell down the stairs and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to feed her this story of like, why, like, if you really loved, he's gaslighting her. If you really loved me, you wouldn't tell them. You would tell them it was
Master
this.
gaslighting.
I mean, absolutely. He was planting his little seeds of doubt in her.
even when the sexual assault happened with his niece,
Yeah.
the conversations he would have with her dad, his brother,
Yep.
like, oh, so I'm going to get in trouble now? She's doing this, she's doing this, she's doing this.
Yeah.
And then the brother is like, this is your daughter,
Yeah.
dude. Well, no, she's not going to press. This is your daughter that
Correct.
we're talking about.
And he's like, she's not going to do anything. She just wants it to end. She's just scared of you. She doesn't want to be around you. She's just scared of you.
He had his family wrapped.
Oh my gosh.
And to sit there and say this impending money didn't have anything to do with it, that all of these people were, and he was telling everybody, like, look, I'm going to build you a house. I'm going to buy you a car. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. They were all waiting on that money. Didn't matter if you were molesting his niece or not.
Yeah.
Insane.
So many interesting characters in this.
You guys, I mean, if you guys haven't watched, this isn't like it's crazy. Like, I didn't even, before this episode, we did this, I didn't even go back and watch Making a Murder. I wanted to, but it's so fucking much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time just watching my TV.
It's a lot.
But it's good.
Yeah. Okay. 4. There's more to Brendan Dassey's confession.
Correct.
Yeah. Brendan Dassey's interrogation is probably the most captivating and infamous element of Making a Murderer. While a lot of people seem to be on the fence regarding Avery's guilt, most people agree that Dassey was mistreated and possibly coerced during his time in custody. However, there is also much more to his confession than the documentary shows. Dassey admitted, among other things, that he stabbed Halbach in the stomach, that Avery repeatedly shot her in the head, so it was more than once, and that the murder was premeditated and planned for days, and that Avery had approached Dassey with the plan and asked for his aid in Halbach's murder.
Which is awful. That's your 16-year-old nephew. Like, why are you recruiting him when Bobby...
Because he knows that he can easily get to him.
Because Bobby was also home, who is Brendan's older brother, and saw Teresa, acknowledged that Teresa was there. It was in his testimony that he laid eyes on Teresa on that property. And then he left to go hunting or whatever. And in the midst of all of these, like, turning pieces, it was still Brendan that he was, like,
That's out. The one. It'd be easy. Like, he's too slow to confess anything. He's just, yep.
Awful.
Dassey implied that Avery had molested him. This is number 3. Another important part of the documentary is the collection of Brendan Dassey's emotional phone calls to his mother. This was, I remember these. However, like the pertinent information in his confession, it seems as if the filmmakers cut out a key piece of evidence in these phone calls. According to the transcripts, Dassey was molested by his uncle, as he told his mother. And I quote, "I even told them about Stephen touching me." He then goes on to explain that his brothers had been touched by Avery as well. While it's obviously impossible for a documentary series to include all evidence from such a protracted and complicated case, this submission feels glaring.
Yeah. And the fact that when Brendan was telling Barbara about this, Barb was like, yeah, he always goofed around with you guys. And he was like, no, Mom. He, like, would touch me in places that made me feel uncomfortable. And she was like, yeah, he was always goofing around with you guys. And that's what all of his... which is so awful to say, but like all of his nieces and nephews had instances with him where he was being completely inappropriate with them, and that was just like the normal. That's not normal. You don't dry hump your nephew in front of everybody and classify that as roughhousing.
Yep.
Disgusting behavior.
Number 2, Avery was accused of multiple rapes. Obviously, one of the most important facets of the documentary is Stephen Avery's false rape and attempted murder convictions from 1985. It's used primarily to set up Avery's character, the town's bias against him, and his history with wrongful imprisonment. However, there is seemingly much more to this past than a false rape conviction. Avery had been accused of sexual assault on 2 separate occasions prior to 1985. His cousin's mother claims that Avery had threatened to kill her daughter if she told anyone that Avery had raped her. A second woman was allegedly also raped but failed to file a report out of fear.
Which those are red flags.
Yep.
I mean, regardless of where your stance is, whether he's guilty or not, he's a red flag person.
There is like there is a case, Like there is a defense for him, and then there's a prosecution for him. But everything is just like you're stacking books on top of him of being guilty. Like it's just all stacking against him. Additional number one. This is the biggest one. Additional DNA evidence.
Mm-hmm.
These pieces of additional DNA evidence definitely add a different perspective to the case. Despite Avery claiming that he never touched Hallbox's SUV, his DNA was found on the trunk of the vehicle.
The hood latch.
Yep, the hood latch.
Like the whole hood latch situation, which correct me if I'm wrong, but it was not in Making a Murder.
Nope.
And the battery was unplugged. So he got under the hood and unplugged the battery so that any sort of, I don't remember if it was like a navigation thing or if somebody had like an extra key fob and they were going to like beep it in the Avery salvage yard, they wouldn't have been able to because the battery was unplugged. His DNA was right there. And for some reason,
why
that was just
DNA
like omitted from the Netflix series. Why?
The Netflix producers of this show are when Convicting a Murder came out.
These women.
Well, even after Making a Murder came out and people started doing their own research, like you had the truthers and then you had whatever you're talking about, the people
remember, like the guilters or something. I don't know.
Whatever. Let's just call them the guilters. When they started doing their own research, they have a few of these in Convicting a Murder. These Netflix producers got put under some heat.
And the whole time they were like, we were not pushing a narrative.
Bullshit.
We were not picking sides.
Bullshit. You literally took a cop's testimony and slipped it.
You chopped that
chopped
shit
it.
up.
Chopped it to make it sound like he said this when he said that.
Yes, and the whole... And I didn't realize that when I watched it the first time, but the whole time Andy Colburn is on the stand... It's literally the same scene over and over again of him like sitting up. Like you can tell he's like kind of anxious about what they're getting ready to talk about. They showed that same scene like 3 different times. And that's not even what happened.
Yep.
That's, he did like
we
a
didn't
whole suit.
do anything to make this.
Yeah. He had a whole suit taken against Netflix for the way that they completely chopped up his...
And I hope he fucking won. I didn't look. He didn't?
No, it got dismissed.
That's so bullshit.
It got dismissed in 2023.
That's defamation.
Yes.
Like, he's probably still getting hassled to this day. If you
no
haven't
way
seen Convicting a Murder, he's getting hassled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which, I hate that you have to pay for it. I wish everybody could.
It was, when it came out on Daily Wire, like Daily Wire was like $5 a month and you can watch every episode. I don't know what happened with that. But
I hope people can pay for it to watch it if they haven't. Because it's full of information.
Yeah. According to Ken Kratz, your favorite person, DNA from Avery's sweaty hand was found on the trunk, indicating that Avery had lied about never touching the car. And as for those who believe that the blood was planted in the car, Grant asked, do the cops also have a vial of his sweat that they are carrying around?
Right, which that was a big thing too. Like, how do you not only take his blood, but his skin cells and his sweat and whatever other, like his spit, whatever else.
That is DNA. Unplantable DNA.
How do you get all of that from him without ever touching him?
And it's just like, again, I go back and ask, why would they do that?
I know. It's just so wild how they play off of emotions.
Make your emotion.
Yeah.
Make you feel like this guy is innocent.
I would love to see.
It's been fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
Since
what's her name? Candace Owens. Is it Candace Owens? I would love to see her and Kathleen Zellner sit down. So
I've watched Candace debate. It wouldn't be good for Kathleen.
I don't want to turn it off.
It wouldn't be good.
I mean,
Candace is. So you know who Ben Shapiro is?
I don't think so.
So he's like one of the. So you've probably seen him on like viral clips of going to colleges and like debating kids.
Oh yeah.
Like the Jewish guy.
Yeah.
He's like her. She's like him. And she will fucking shred her to pieces.
I had a really great time watching Kathleen, so.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. But, yeah, I think that's all we got. If you haven't seen Convicting a Murder, watch Convicting a Murder. Definitely, anytime something like... It definitely made me take a step back, and anytime I watch something, especially like if it's painting a picture, it definitely makes you want to look at the other side of things.
And I was like, I don't know, I feel like in this case you have to, because Making a Murder did such a great job at painting their innocence.
Yep.
And if that's the only thing that you watch, like you said, you're just going to be, they're innocent. Like, what are you even talking
It's
about?
been 20 years, and this dude's still wrongfully. He's been convicted for 38 years, just rotting in there. And now he's rightfully so, he's in there.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But I think we have a really, really good one coming the next time we see you guys. Missing persons case.
Yeah, so make sure you subscribe.
Another one that you have no clue about, and it's like one of the biggest missing
know,
persons cases ever.
I'm a child.
So you're not going to have an issue finding stuff about this. I'm pretty sure there's Netflix specials about it. Yeah.
There's a new John Bonet. Did you see that?
Just came out.
I know.
I was like, God damn it, we missed that. We just missed.
Well, I hope it makes people go back and watch what we already did.
Yeah.
But
we'll eventually redo the Murdaugh one. Madeline McCann next.
Yep.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.